Still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications options. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What's that you said is coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters, the Three Amigos. It's the show that gets you through the weekend and looks ahead, of course, to a match usually, but no game for us until Wednesday. There is, of course, the parade through the city centre tomorrow, which I'm sure a lot of you will be going to, and hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful time celebrating our first trophy in many, many years. As always, it's your show. We allow you to dictate where we go with your conversations. Some of you like to send in stuff in advance, and I'm going to give you, Phil Scott, the opportunity to ask you a question. You went, hi, Steve, question for the Amigos. It's irrelevant if Eddie Howe is an elite coach, but he is very, very good. What makes him so good? It can't just be dedication and long hours. You can have both of these and still be awful. So what is it, Mitch?
I think he certainly seems to be able to connect with players. If you look at the feedback from the players when they're asked about Eddie, there's a connection there at all levels, from young players just coming into the squad through to seasoned and experienced internationals. And the ability to communicate on clearly, with empathy, on a number of different levels, is something that tends to make exceptional people, you know, in any field. And an ability to cross generations and get your message across, but also understand what an individual's issues, problems may be. And sometimes he's that to a fault, I think. He's never been any... I can't think of a player he's ever thrown under the bus. I can think of a player I would have loved him to have thrown under the bus, but he never did, and he certainly had plenty of opportunities to. All players who came into contact with him feel that they're improved in some way. Not necessarily just in a technical footballing way, but as an individual. And he's very big on that collective group mentality and taking responsibility as a group. I think tactically, he sometimes gets found out. I can think of games where he's gone a different route and opposition coaches have found him out, particularly Spanish ones for some reason. But I think it's that ability to work with everybody at every level. And I can't think of a player who's ever had a bad word to say about him, either during or after their time at Newcastle United. In fact, some players who've left can't help but praise him for how he's kept in touch after they've gone on and wanted to see how they're doing at other clubs. And again, there's a player in particular I can think of in that respect. And so, yeah, I think that's the point of difference with Eddie. And I think that's why he still has an ability to develop as a coach. I think he still has, I think Jano's quite right, he still has some feelings. We've been asking questions this season, but give him his due, every time questions have been asked, I think he's come up with answers. And I think that's really important. That shows him developing and growing and changing. And I think that's what makes him an exceptional individual. And an ability to communicate across a number of levels is what makes exceptional individuals in many fields, in my opinion.
Okay, it's a great question, Steve, from Phil to start the show. And he's right. A lot of those managers have those things, but are terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Because often that comes with an ego, Steve. And we've seen them at Newcastle United time and time again over the years. I think what Eddie brings is, I think Eddie, what people don't realise, I think he has like a steely determination about him. He focuses and he channels all his energy into the job. I think he has an awareness of his surroundings. And I think he picks up on that, and I think he learns every day from that. I think he's someone who has benefited from being able to grow into the role at Newcastle United. He certainly benefited from growing into the role at Bournemouth. And I think that's something that very few managers get the opportunity to do in the modern game. Owners and such like are very, very keen for instant success. And when they don't get it, they're very, very quick to throw out the P45. And other than the situation at Burnley, which was more personal to do with Eddie and the family situation when he asked to move, he's had this longevity at Bournemouth, and I think we're going to benefit from the longevity at Newcastle as well. I think he has a deep understanding of the game, but I also think with that deep understanding, he has a will to continuously learn. And I'm saying that based on something that I heard just last week. You guys know my daughter works for Emirates, and she happened to be on a flight last week that Eddie was on, and she was looking after him, and she said he sat for 7 hours the entire journey, watching games, taking notes, writing things down in his observations of what he was seeing on his videos. And most people, when they travel for a 7-hour journey, would watch a film or read a book or fall asleep. But Eddie's deep into his football, and he's deep into, obviously looking at probably our next opponents and the opponents after that, and making note of little videos that have been put together by his analytical team and things like that. So I think that's something that perhaps that's maybe it's part of the modern game. It's, you know, I don't think Joe Harvey benefited from anything like that. Joe would struggle to get some film from Tyne's television from shoot if he was lucky, you know, and probably then the only time he got to watch it himself was on a Sunday afternoon. But that's the way that the game's changed, I suppose. But I think all of those grown into the role, and I think with a manager, you've got to have that ability, be able to be the player's mate, be their friend, but also be able to remind them that you're the boss. And regardless of how they feel, it's his decision that's prominent in everything that they do, both in training, in their personal life, and in their match day performance. And if Eddie hears or sees something that he's not liking, I'm sure he'll react to it and lay the law down. But I'm not saying anything that would be different for any normal manager. This is what you would expect, and this is what good managers are all about. I think sometimes when you hear a manager at his pre or post match, certainly his pre-match interviews, when the press ask him things and they come out with and Guardiola is a perfect example. I don't know anything about, I'm not interested in, I don't watch that, I'm not following that. When it's a question about what's going on around the football club, I just concentrate on the football side. I bet you away from that, Guardiola's deep into it, and I'm sure Eddie Howe would be if he was in the same situation. They might put up a persona, but they're 100% focused, but bound to get deflected. But I think we're just lucky that we've got Eddie Howe. I think it was a great question, and I hope I've hit a few points there that maybe raise a few comments.
Yeah, George, Eddie Howe. The question was,
well, for me, Eddie, for me, yeah, and it's a great question, and the answer for me is about the man's intelligence. He has a level of intelligence which many so-called top managers don't have, I'm afraid. You even the bits of Eddie Howe that you see in the dressing room when he's geeing the team up. How many times does Eddie Howe use expletives to get his point over? He's not effing this and effing that, and like some of them are. It's a proper discussion. It's a proper description, and his intelligence shines out when you realise that when he left the Bournemouth situation, he was going to be out for a while. He didn't sit around moping. He didn't sit around thinking about what might have been. He went off and met all the top managers around the world and watched all the top coaches coach, and filled his boots with all the knowledge he could get from them. And that shows a level of intelligence that not many of the so-called high-level managers have. He's applied that very nicely with his hard work. And somebody said, I think it was our friend of the fans forum, said that he puts the lights on and he puts the lights off. I can say that that's true, because I can see the lights from where I sleep. But it's not just the hard work. He adds to that a level of intelligence, so he's able to get inside the heads of the people that play for him and persuade them to play the way he wants them to play. And having done that, as I've said more than once on here and other platforms that we're on, he's saved Newcastle a lot of money. Look at the players that couldn't even get a kick on the team of Steve Bruce, and some of them are now are stars in our team and have been since the time Eddie came, and yet Bruce wouldn't even look at them. So there's that level of skill, level of intelligence, and he is just also, which is a rare quality in any of the football people, he's just a nice guy as well. So he appeals to across the ages. He appeals to the parents of youngsters that might want to come to Newcastle United. He appeals to the families of players who want to transfer to Newcastle United, because he knows how to talk to them. So it for me, it sums up in one word against most of the others. He's a very intelligent man, a gentleman, and we're getting the benefit of all of that now with Newcastle United, and I think it's fantastic. And to be honest, he deserves everything he gets, because somebody, one of the lads said, we've often look at the minutes, if not hours, was spent talking about young Lewis Hall when he first came, and Eddie Howe wasn't budged by any of that. He wasn't budged by any of the rubbish in the press. He did it his way, and that takes a steely determination along with, as I say, the intelligence he's got. So it's a combination of things, and I think we've yet to see the best of Eddie Howe. I'm conscious that we had never seen an Eddie Howe team yet, if you understand what I mean. He's still playing with the remnants of somebody else's team that he's improved. But to actually have a team which is his through and through, we haven't seen that yet. And I look forward to the day when we do, because we'll skin one or two people when we do.
Hell of a question, Phil. Thanks for sending that in. And yeah, I just agree with what the lads have said. I mean, Eddie Howe is certainly for me up there now with, just tucked in nicely behind Joe Harvey. He's a wonderful, wonderful manager who has kept us up, got us to 2 cup finals and got us into Europe, and with more to come. And it just shows the fickle side of football now that, nearly 4 weeks ago, people were scratching their heads, potentially talking about another manager maybe coming in at the end of the season if we lost the cup final. But that's just the nature of football now. And it's the nature of how we communicate about football with social media. It's very easy when you've had a couple of drinks to go and stick something on social media, and then the next morning wake up and wish you'd not put it on there because suddenly, Newcastle have won a game and Eddie Howe's not looking as bad as he did 24 hours earlier. And this is what happens. But yeah, look, in the grand scheme of things, as well as leaving a legacy of, helping the takeover go through, Amanda and Mirdad should be very pleased with the appointment that they made, because it was their appointment. And he hasn't let us down. It's great stuff. We will see how it progresses over the course of the next few years, and hopefully there's a bit more silverware that Eddie can win for us. Lots of questions coming in, and somebody has just put this one. Steve Middlemas says, "Is being a good manager separate from being a good coach? For me, Eddie is both. Does he also continues to learn, in my opinion?" I think we all continue to learn, Mitch. But it is a good point, because back in the days of, the iconic names like Paisley, somebody mentioned, and Shankly, and obviously Brian Clough at Nottingham Forest. I'm picking names out there here. George Graham at Arsenal, of course. Eltel. Obviously, there's so many managers over the years who've become household names, big characters, people we all remember. But they, a lot of them literally had full control. They were the ones who were doing the deals for players. They were picking the players. They were going out and getting the players. They were doing deals sometimes in motorway services for players. But then they were coaching. Now that's been taken away, and teams now really look for a good coach. And I guess it reiterates a little bit what Steve was saying about Eddie being on that flight this week. What's a good coach going to do when he's off? Well, he's had a little bit of time off. He said he was going to have a little bit of time off, but there he is on a 7-hour flight watching lots of games, probably of 10 teams who might be playing in the next 10 games, and probably learning a lot about their weaknesses and how he can beat them, Mitch. So I guess it is different. And somebody also made the point in the chat there before about Eddie having a good team around him. And the interesting names to mention, of course, Tyndall, because he's been with him, but Jonesy, of course, Graham Jones, who we've got to remember came in and embarrassed Steve Bruce when Steve Bruce was at the club, because Mike Gale in his recent interview actually name-checked Graham Jones as somebody who knew what he was doing. So he's part of it. Then you've got the goalkeeping coaches, you've got the analysts, you've got all of that. So I guess it is different, but Eddie also has to be the man manager. He's a good coach, but he's also a man manager. He's the one who, as we know, because he's told us he does it, he's the one who goes and puts his arm around somebody if things aren't going well, but he's also the one who has to make the hard decisions, and will pull them aside and have a chat with them and say, look, Dubravka, thanks for doing what you did, but you're not playing in the cup final. So he's a bit of everything, isn't he?
He is, but I do think it is becoming increasingly separate, manager and coaches.
Yeah.
And I do think it really is becoming that sort of a division almost between. You can think of some people who are hailed in the game as phenomenal coaches, and players love their training sessions, but not all of them become successful managers for one reason or another. And I think you're going to see more and more of that over time. Equally, though, I can think of managers don't have a particular time for one individual in particular, but I know players who played for them, and in particular, their families will not have a bad word said against them because of how well they were looked after off the pitch as a family, and how that particular manager looked at a more holistic view of looking after a player. It wasn't just about coaching them day to day. And in fact, that manager did very little coaching apparently, and he relied on his coaches day in, day out to handle the training ground stuff, while he dealt with the brown envelopes and laybys and dodgy deals off the scene. If I've dropped enough hints as to who I'm talking about there, then I don't know how many more I can do. But like I say, I know one player in particular who played under him, and his missus won't have a bad word said against this man. That's how well they were managed as a family. And so I think they are becoming distinct things. I think as we're moving to an era of some clubs going down a sporting director stroke, what have you, where that's separate to a manager, and a manager isn't a manager anymore, he's more of a head coach. And then some managers might fit into that kind of role more comfortably. Yes, Steve, I think some people just don't have good interpersonal skills. And again, I think that's across all industries. I can think of some people, I can think of somebody I graduated with who was probably one of the most talented oral surgeons in the UK to this day. His patients will never know because he's got zero bedside manner. And I mean zero bedside manner. And his patients will never know how good he is. He's not just good; he's phenomenal. And yet, without those interpersonal skills, whenever I say I take the piss, it's a good job that his patients these days are all under general anaesthetic, so he doesn't have to interact with them anyway. You know, but that's I think that's a factor in life. Think of our good friend John Carver. How many top managers want John Carver to work with them? Why? Because throughout the game, he's seen as one of the best coaches. The players love his coaching sessions. But he's never quite been able to transition into managerial roles for one reason or another. And so that's where he got the piss taken out when he made that comment in the press conference. And what he was referring to wasn't his ability as a manager. It was referring to his ability as a coach. And I think that got very misinterpreted, unfortunately. He is still seen in the game as a coach that people want in their clubs. And Scotland are very lucky to have him. And so, you know, I think certain roles suit certain people for one reason or another. I don't just think it's about interpersonal skills. I think there's a lot of other things in there as well. I think if you think of the more cerebral coaches, the people who are more analytical and probably spend most of their time, you know, with the tactics in thinking more higher level, they tend not to be coaching on the ground. they rely on coaches like John Carver to get their message across on the training ground about how you want to set up and play, because they're too busy doing other things. And so I think that certainly the days of the manager doing absolutely everything, I think, are long gone. You know, we've got that set up now with Paul Mitchell, and I think is that's the longer we can keep that working and running together, the better that's going to become. And I think the better the interactions are going to seem. I think it was a little forced or jarred at the start, but I think as we grow, there's no doubt, because these are talented individuals, intelligent individuals at the top of their game, they should be able to grow together. And the days of a do everything, see everything manager are pretty much long gone.
Would you agree, Steve?
Yeah, I would, absolutely, 100%. I would say that that role that you're talking about, that manager who oversees every single thing, I think that died in the late 80s, early 90s. I think it died, the death knell of it started when Tottenham went to the city and floated themselves, and then all of a sudden you had other people coming, and then other clubs joined on the ranks. We did as well under Sir John Hall, where we became a PLC. But I think that was the start of it, because that's the point where there are shareholders and investment houses and people like that who know money, who are looking for a return on investment, and they see the benefit, or they saw the benefit, or look at the benefit of having experts in each particular domain, and they don't see an overarching, or didn't see an overarching sort of football manager in the Cloughy reign, where he literally ran the football club. I mean, there are obviously exceptions that have gone through the years, but usually lower down the league. But I suppose the question is, where does, and I think Mitch has hit on it, where does that coach stroke manager role split off? Where is the divide? What is the divide? And in effect, I think everyone who sits there as a manager, if you want to call it, in the Premier League, is actually just the coach, because there's invariably somebody or a group of people well above him that dictate everything that goes on in that football club. And that's why you end up with managers like Guardiola, who can turn around in a press conference and say, I know nothing about what's happening with Kevin De Bruyne. I don't know whether he's staying or going. I'm not interested. Klopp was the same. We're hearing it from the Liverpool manager at the moment when it comes to the negotiations with their players who are out of contract. So it's nothing new. I think it's just the face of the game. I think that the name manager is a bit of an anachronism now in the game. I think everyone is a coach first. And if they're lucky enough to have a little bit of influence within the boardroom, then it's influence that they've earned, rather than influence that they've been granted. And Mitch is right. It's the role of the sporting director. But I think also that another area that comes into it is the role of agents. You're now in the situation where a manager isn't even allowed to talk to a player. He has to go through the player's agent. So even if the manager stroke coach wanted to talk to the player about something off the field, he wouldn't be allowed to, because it's written into the player's contract, or the player just refuses because he has an agent who is quite dominating and domineering and has told the player, if anyone approaches you on any subject, you come to me. That's all about control, by the way. It's the agent making sure that he has an element of control over his client, but also has an element of control over the football club, in terms of what they try and get his client to do, or whatever. So I think that history's shown that the Cloughy days have long gone. The Bob Paisley difference between some of them were always on the coaching pitch, and some of them never turned up. We've had one day coach stroke managers who we heard only last week, weren't there for 4 days a week. It's not the first time we've heard that. We heard it. I remember hearing that at Sunderland, and Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill didn't turn up sometimes because he was in that vein.
So we had Big Jack as well. There was always fishing.
Yeah, exactly. We had Jack as well. Jack would turn up. and do his own thing during the week. Martin O'Neill came out of the Cloughie book, and that's why he operated like that. And many of the players at Sunderland say they never used to see him. It was always Roy Keane on the training pitch, you know. So and a lot of it's personalities as well, I think, you know. But I think some people as well, you know, they don't sit well getting into confrontational situations, and perhaps it benefits a coach by not having to do that, not having to get into that confrontational aspect of the role, unless it's specifically about what's going on the training pitch and in the changing room and on the pitch during the 90 minutes. Anything else after that is something that they're not really interested in, because it deflects from what they're being paid for, and they're probably sitting there going, I don't want to do Paul Mitchell's job, for example. I don't want to get involved in that area of the business because I don't want him getting involved in my area of the business. So it's finding those demarcation lines, Steve.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love that one by Sam earlier on there. He goes, it would be interesting to see what managers wear and what coaches wear on the touchline on match days. Some wear tracksuits, other wear suits. Can they be identified by clothing? I love that, Sam.
Good point.
Yeah, it's a good continuation, this, George, isn't it? I mean, what would you say? Is Eddie a combination of them all? Do you think Eddie's one type or the other?
I think Eddie is a very skillful coach, very intelligent coach, who's learned how to deal with the situation above him and to the side of him. And to the side of him, he picks that team. And above him, he watches it very carefully. And showed his acumen and his intelligence when there was all the spat that Mitchell caused with the things he was saying when he arrived, or allegedly said, about the recruitment of the team and about this and that and the other, and how he wanted the team to play. A lot of managers, some of them we've had, when they heard that, would have been in their cars and down the A1 and wouldn't have come back. It would have huffed them that much. But Eddie didn't get huffed. He just dug his toes in, did what he's good at doing, and made sure that they knew he was good at what he was doing. And so it's all come out in the wash. But that's largely, in my opinion, down to Eddie's intelligence more than anything else. And I think, you know, lads have said it, the days of the almighty manager that does everything have long gone. I mean, the other thing you need to look at as well with our setup is that when players do something on the pitch, like scoring, for example, and they run to the touchline, half the time they're running to Graham Jones, they're not running to Eddie Howe. You have a look and see how many hug Graham Jones, not Eddie Howe or Eddie's assistant, you know. So, you know, it's but the almighty manager's gone, for lots of reasons, and not least because of the amount of money in the game and how people need to deal with it. The other thing about the modern coach stroke managers, they need to be able to handle social media, and again, Eddie Howe's learned about that. I mean, look at the geopolitical rubbish that used to get thrown him when he first took over. He handled that with some skill, not always people would say with the best answers, but with intelligent answers that didn't make things worse. And we've got lots of examples of our managers who were great in social media. I mean, hells bells, you know, what was that Irishman called again? You know, Joe Kinnear. Now, wasn't he good on social media? You couldn't get 3 words out of him without 2 of them being F. So, you know, thank goodness that's all gone. So he's the almighty manager's gone, and I think we're very lucky to have one of the modern managers, stroke coaches, who's knows how to handle the bits he's not good at, knows how to pick the people that can do it for him, and that's the team element. Is Eddie's skill is in picking those people, and we're lucky that it's going right for, and I think it'll just get better, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I've just had a text from Joe, who will be joining us shortly. He says, Eddie out, the cup final was a blip.
That's what he said to me as well.
We'll see what he says when he comes on. He can face his public when he comes on.
them
As-
up, Steve.
As always, plenty to get through. It's time for that music. Dear Met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present, and this one was sent by Darren Nesbitt. Ryan Taylor, over the wall 8 years ago at Ibrox in the Tyne end for a pre-season friendly. Club ambassador, of course, Ryan Taylor these days. Nice photo, Darren. Thank you for sending that over. And if you have got a photograph of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present, can be a player, can be a member of staff, email us, nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com or contact us on our social media. Still 10 games to go. Bit early to be talking about transfer windows, but Tom Dixon posted this a little bit earlier. He said the window will open early between Sunday, June the 1st and Tuesday, June the 10th. It'll then open again on Monday, June the 16th until deadline day on Monday, September the 1st. Premier League clubs have agreed on the 2025 summer transfer window dates following a shareholders meeting. Mitch, what is this all about?
Well, it's about the World Club Cup, isn't it? And it's about this ridiculous competition that's going to let certain choice few get a little bit richer. Going to give them a little couple of week window to tempt a few people in and disrupt everything and then slam everything shut so people can't do anything about it for another couple of weeks. And then they turn up in the second window with their pockets stuffed full of cash from a World Club Cup. It's bullshit. Again, it's letting the rich become richer. There's a bit of FOMO there because those clubs representing us in the World Club Cup might get weakened because of differences in transfer windows. So I tell you what, let's have a stupid 2-part window. Why don't just leave it open all the way through the competition? And I tell you why they won't, because just in case somebody wants to buy one of their players and they might get short-handed during the middle of a competition. Well, what the hell are they playing this competition then for? I have to laugh at things like you want to talk about fair market values. The Club World Cup had a bid of $0 from ITV to show the competition. And that, for a long period, was the only bid on the table. The only bid on the table. Until, is it DZN?
Doesn't, yeah.
Yeah, of course, part Saudi owned, have come along and said, oh, well, there's, I think, is it 300 million?
$1 billion.
Or is it a billion, is it?
Yeah.
Fuck me. But it shows the fair market value for that is what somebody's prepared to pay for it. $1 billion or $0. And then they try and tell us they want to assess the Premier League by fair market values and things like that. It's a joke. And the 2-part transfer windows all are based around this Club World Cup and the stupidity of it and the financial stupidity of it. There's already shenanigans with one of the Mexican clubs being kicked out and replaced by another club, and they're now talking about going to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Well, they better get a bloody move on. What an absolute shambles. And yet it's still going ahead, and there's still going to be magic money, tree money poured into the competition and the clubs. And it's going to allow Chelsea to do stupid things again. Man City, whilst under investigation of 115 charges of of financial impropriety are then also allowed to go and enter into this competition to have their coffers filled. The double standards and more are just ridiculous, and it's an embarrassment of a competition, and it just shows how really out of touch with the grassroots of the game and the fans people at certain levels in football administration are becoming.
Who's actually competing in this cup?
Right. Is it Chelsea and Man City for us?
Yeah. Chelsea are in because they won the Champions League in 2020, 2021.
That's interesting.
They've sort of managed to finagle a number of teams in there on the back of, well, they won this once, so let's get them into there. The qualification process seems to be different for each FIFA locale. Hence why the Mexican club that's been kicked out are kicking up a fuss, because they satisfy one lot of criteria but not another. And because they're currently under investigation for something by the Mexican FA, the FIFA have kicked them out. Yet Man City, currently under investigation by the Premier League, are being left in. It's basically, I think we've got from the UAE, I think is Al Ain,
yeah,
and as Asian Champions League winners. And I think we might have Al Shabab Al Ahly going over as well. And what that's going to do here, the amount of money those two clubs are going to make off of that, is going to totally skew the Gulf League. They're now going to get money that the players that the clubs that have worked hard in the last 3 or 4 years to build up and get to a level where they can compete in the Asian Champions League. People like Al Wassel. Suddenly are going to be blown away financially again by the two historically big teams.
Yeah, I'll tell you who's in it. You've got Man City and Real Madrid. You've got Chelsea, Bayern Munich, PSG, Inter, Porto, Benfica, Dortmund, Juve, RB Salzburg, and Atletico Madrid. And then from Australia, you've got Auckland City, massive club. Shouldn't say that, Steve. Sorry about that. Any Auckland fans? South America.
They're not going to get their asses handed to them massively.
Yes. Then you've got Palmeiras, Flamengo, Fluminense, River Plate, Boca, and Botafogo. From North America, you've got Monterrey, Seattle Sounders, Pachuca. And
Pachuca's the ones who are being chucked out, I believe.
Yes. And, well, I know they're the ones that have come in. I think Leon have got chucked out because they're a club, but they're taking them to arbitration. Then you've got, surprise, Inter Miami. And then you've got from Africa, Al Ahly.
Right there, Egypt.
Yeah. Then you've got Esperance of Tunisia, and Maladoni Sundowners. And then from Asia, Al Hilal, Aurora Red Diamonds, Al Ain, and Ulsan, which I think are from Korea.
Ulsan are Korean. Yeah.
God.
Apologies for the pronunciations.
You did well.
It's
I did canny. But the crazy thing is, there's $1 billion, right, in prize money that's going to be split. But of that prize money, there's only $700 million in prize money. The other 300 million is going to FIFA. So nice little pocket for FIFA there. So they've made sure that they were well covered out of the prize money from the beginning. There's a question mark because Ronaldo's team didn't qualify. He's in the huff. So all of a sudden this window's appeared, and who's to say he won't go on loan during the window to somewhere like Miami, and we'll end up with a Messi and Ronaldo both playing together in the same team for the first time ever in the World Club Championships. And then it'll be a month's loan or a 6-week loan. That's the sort of manipulation that's occurring. And this is primarily for the TV. And we spoke on Wednesday night, guys, about, at least I mentioned on Wednesday night about the about the little YouTube program that I sent you guys,
Yeah.
where the former Sunderland owner was talking about the influx of a variety of aspects of the game and changes in the game. And one of the changes he talked about was North American TV and the influx of North American investors. And we've talked about it many times, but there was one aspect that he surprised me about, and it was the very fact that the MSL, Major League Soccer, MLS, hasn't taken off TV-wise in the manner that they thought it would. So what they're now doing is they're now looking, and this is where the owners of UK clubs, English clubs in particular, where they're talking about this platform where they'll be able to be in charge of their own. And, we're now hearing it whispered from the Premier League as well that by 2027, clubs will be selling their own TV rights and putting their own TV, having their own market. The Premier League will have its own platform. But one of the reasons is that the biggest growing market of interest in America is among the Mexican and South American people, sort of origin in America itself, because they love football, they love soccer. It's not the traditional American side of the market. They see that as being the massive growth area, and they see that those getting that demographic interested in the Premier League and hooking on to clubs as well. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. I think this is really the precursor to that. This is the precursor to pushing European football, because primarily that's where the interest is going to arise from, just by the number of clubs that are in it from Europe, because that's what FIFA want. But it's how we've talked about the game changing and evolving, and not necessarily in the way that we would like to see it evolve over the next 4 to 5 or 6 years, because of the influx and involvement of the US investors in the game. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm always cynical, and that's why I'm saying, let's not be surprised if we end up with Ronaldo playing alongside Messi and he goes on loan, because that window is perfect for that competition. Because then during the next window he can go back, or they can do some sort of deal. If the window had stayed as it was, it probably wouldn't have been a possibility, But
you would be moving twice within the same window, which is not allowed.
Exactly. So it's all games, isn't it?
Not allowed at the moment.
Not allowed at the moment. Yeah.
It's a farce the way a lot of this is being forced. The way that cherry picking and hand picking certain people and teams to be involved.
Yeah.
The base qualification seems to be competing at a certain level in your regional equivalent of the Champions League, but then some of those exceptions are bizarre and purely financially motivated.
It's interesting what you said about Chelsea as well, and if you look at that sort of window coming in early, Chelsea today announced that there's another £65 million worth of share issue come from the existing owners being dropped into the club. Now, will that help Chelsea buy somebody before they get into this competition? And isn't also the very fact that line allows them to make that purchase before the start of or during this PSR window, because they'll have a little bit money to get them through this PSR window, and then any prize money that they pick up in the next window moves on to the following year. So again, it's smoke and mirrors, it's manipulation, it's that sort of little game that gets played in the boardrooms and in the higher ups of the game, and obviously you can visualize it occurring, because they'll go, you know what, we want the best players, because there's a lot of talk, isn't there, about clubs and the FIFA turn around and saying, well, if you don't play your big stars, then you'll not get the prize money and stuff like that, But these players are burnt out. These players, I mean, you just look at the players that were burnt out last season who have hardly had a look in this season. You've got Chelsea struggling with some of their squad burnt out already, and it's as though the FIFA are doing their damnedest and their best to make sure that enough players can be moved around early enough to make the competition
It's
much of a bright light.
it's clear this is what Harry Kane was referring to in his post-England game. You know, when he's had a bit of criticism for form and looking a little sluggish, and he's like, yeah, and look what they want us to do when the season ends. Yeah. But I also find it difficult to square that away when clubs not involved will be off doing friendlies in strange parts of the world. And in fact, during this break, Villa have already been doing, friendly trips halfway around the world, which seems insane to me. Yeah. Thank God we won the bloody cup. When I what we've been doing instead if we hadn't. It's funny, this little break might actually do us a hell of a lot of good. I know some people are worried about our lot coming back, not being in form and being out of shape, and I think quite the opposite. I think it's being a break for a right reason at the right time, and we're going to benefit from it.
Well, and the players that matter to us have all been playing internationals anyway, so
Yeah. Thank you to George Hayes in the chat. George is a huge supporter of the show. During lockdown, he, along with George Mitchell and a few others, were very prevalent in bidding quite a lot for John Justice Allen's t-shirts, which helped us raise, best part of 20 grand for mainly for the food bank. But George has just donated 50 quid to the Malverno Christmas Fund, and he's just bought 20 memberships. So thank you for that, George, mate. And I hope you got your fanzines. Tom Richardson took them back to America after his trip to Newcastle and posted them to you. But I think I sent one to your brother as well. But he's enjoying it.
There's a shelf in my wardrobe still full of those T-shirts. I've got that many. I haven't had them all on.
Still celebrating. Got home on Monday after London and Newcastle. Can't believe I eventually got to see a win, beating everyone since '74. Great stuff, George. Next time you come over, George, you'll have to give us a shout and you'll have to meet up with us. Yeah, just a thing on this competition, George. It's crazy, isn't it? And I mean, as you've heard from Harry Kane, I mean, he's not looking forward to it at all. He wants a break.
And it's clear. I mean, the lads have said it all. I don't need to say much more. It's clear it was invented to give those that have got even more, and that's all it's about, really. And it's absolutely a disgrace. But if put it into perspective, I mean, Steve read the teams out, and he read the Australian teams out, and I noticed on the chat somebody said to Steve, he missed Blythe Spartans out. Well, I tell you what, some of those Australian teams Steve read out, Blythe Spartans would give them a hell of a game, and they're playing in the World Club Championship. It's just ridiculous, absolutely crazy. There's not a lot to add to it, but more manipulation by the powers that be to keep control and to make sure that those that stand by them get rewarded in all sorts of ways. It just it does nothing for the sanity of football, in my opinion. But as long as Neil said, as long as somebody's prepared to pay for it and support it, well, fine. Let them get on with it. But it is crazy when you've got the top teams in the world at one end and teams from places like Australia at the other end, and all in the same competition. It's just crazy. As I say, some of those Australian teams, Steve, out, Blythe Spartans would give them a good game. That's where the level's gone. So it's quite sad, really. And in response to Mozza, hello at Floodlights On, as I was asked to do. And there's the rattle. And if Steve gives us permission at the end, I'll actually swing it.
Go for it now, George. Go for it now, just in case I forget.
Right.
This is for George.
How are the lads?
How are the lugs?
Yeah, God, cleans the wax out every time he gets it out. Great stuff. Halfway through the show already. We'll bring Joe in after a quick ad break. Still quite a bit to get through. Don't forget as well, if you've got a question, drop it in the chat. Can't promise we'll get to it, but we of course will do our best. Here's the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickys.co.uk. Email them, info@mrvickys.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet, and it's just £30 per person deposit. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. You can find them at their website, media-arts.co.uk. And if you listen to us a podcast, you can find us at Sport Social Podcast Network. You can also find us on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, you can subscribe to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button underneath this video, hit the thumb up, which is the like button, or join the channel. You can also visit our website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk, and take out a lifetime membership for £25, which gets you a pen, a badge, a key ring, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, and also your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. There's some Newcastle United events coming up. Friday the 23rd of January sees Chris Waddle and Peter Beardsley at the Tyne Theatre. Tickets available 0844 249 1000 or website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. Some summer events to come up as well. An evening with John Beresford takes place at the Crown Plaza on Friday the 25th of July, 7:30 till 10:30. Tickets by hitting that QR code. And NUFC Matters end of season party takes place on the 27th of June. Steve Howie and Steve Watson will be in attendance and will be hosted by Joe Allen at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets available from nufcmatters.co.uk or by going onto Voucher. And we are raising money for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. On Saturday the 9th of August, Northern Horizon, the Blake 7 convention takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets available from nufcmatters.co.uk. Come along and meet the likes of Jan Chappell, Sally Navette, Brian Croucher, and Sasha Mitchell. Don't forget as well, we have limited edition copies of The Entertainers signed by Peter Beardsley and Lee Clark. Available now from newcastlelegends.com. Big shout out to Keith Patterson, who's in the chat. Just a flying visit from Keith. Hope you're well, mate. And we've had a few people email very concerned about Al Walid. Because Al Walid was on Geordie's here, Geordie's there on Wednesday night, and he froze like this. And unfortunately for Al Walid, it's not the most complimentary photograph of him. I did get a message off him to say that he hadn't got stuck on the toilet and he wasn't doing anything inappropriate. He did ask me to pass that on to all viewers and said that he looks forward to being on the show when he's charged his phone up for next week. Thank you.
He looks like he should pineapple.
Thank you, Al Walid. Good evening, Joseph. How are you, mate?
Evening, gentlemen. All right.
Oh, good. I put that on and makes you look. You're comparing it to Al Walid. Can you do the face? Can you do Al Walid's face? Yes, there we go.
Can you do Al Walid's face? But we're doing it.
I'm doing the noise. What a classic. All right. As always, plenty to get through on here. Time for a laugh. And as always, if you're easily offended, I would go into your kitchen and go and make yourself a cuppa and maybe turn the volume down. The Carabao Cup is still very prevalent through all of the tweets this week. Ian Edgar, thanks for this. He said, just thought I'd share our post-box topper in Black Hill concert. How are the lads? What a week. Fantastic. Very good stuff. That. This one, courtesy of Night Waves. It's coming up to 60 years since England won a trophy, so they've drafted in an expert problem solver. Big Dan Byrne, of course. Great to see him making his England debut and hitting the bar as well. I wish that one had just dropped a little bit lower. Would have capped a perfect week for him, but I know he's very, very happy. Dan Byrne again. How many days since we won the cup, says Manx Pie. It'll never get sick, will it, going on about this, to be honest. And a commemorative plaque has sprouted up in Newcastle. City upon Newcastle upon Tyne. Amanda Staveley, Mierdag Gadusi for getting us our club back.
Brilliant.
From the Tyne and Weir County Council. I'm not quite sure that's an official council, but who cares? It looks good. And for a change, the most hated man on Tyneside isn't me this week. It is this guy. Yes. Anyone who's ever been on Newcastle United's website will know exactly who that is and probably had a fallout with them, certainly over the last couple of months. Tattoos, lots of tattoos flying around at the moment. This one was from Neil on Twitter. He says, a mate from work's pal got a commemorative tattoo to celebrate the cup win. The tattooist's either a Macam or dyslexic. League is not spelt with a U, apparently.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's difficult to see in that picture where it's got the League Cup written at the top. Yeah. It's very badly misspelt.
Dear me, awful, awful. Signs. We love doing signs on here. Another pub sign. If you boil a funny bone, it becomes a laughing stock. That's humorous.
Oh, dear me.
Very good. These people who write these boards, very clever. Any persons, except players, caught collecting golf balls on this course will be prosecuted and have their balls removed.
We're
not going to that golf course. Shop signs. Shop signs.
The gardener's cleaned his shears.
Yeah, we've got a new shop sign this week. Here it is. Selfridges and other appliances. Very good. Gary, I like that one. And I'm not sure what on earth this is. Jimmy Moore. You can tell it's Jimmy Moore because it's always a little bit risky. God, yes. Wellness, vaginal steaming and more.
Yeah.
It's actually got a website as well, so I'm sure it might interest some people. That's a free advert for somebody. Never heard of that, though. This one, brilliant. Again in America. Clean strip, premium stripper. Someone's left a couple of dollar bills underneath it. And this one on the car. Needs a bath.
Oh.
Very good. Clean your car, mate. Clean your car. This kind of unfortunate thing can happen to some people when you go into shops. Monster pipe. Too close to the checkout scanner again. And how about this for foundations, lads? Yeah. Some people just don't think to them before they set a business up. Like this guy. M. Barmer, funeral service. Grab 'em, bag 'em, burn 'em. Midget top price, politicians free. Excellent. And this has been sent to us by about 10 people this week. Spruce Springs Clean. Very good. Thank you for that. Gary, another one. You are not permitted in the hot tub if you have swallowed a baseball and an Xbox controller, is what that means.
Right.
Very good.
Yeah.
And this was brilliant. Can anyone recommend a quiet fan to use at night, please? I need one to sleep, and the two are both based on reviews. Sounds like fighter planes whooshing past. Chris got in first. Liverpool fans are pretty quiet at the moment. And a form filled in. I love forms, these forms that will get sent every now and then. Religious studies. Name the three parts of the Holy Trinity. 1, A New Hope. 2, The Empire Strikes Back. 3, Return of the Jedi. That's the kind of thing I would have done at school, by the way. In fact, I got chucked out of religious studies for something very similar. I might read the story to you one day. I'm a bus driver. If I'm having a bad day at work, I look in the mirror while driving and mutter to myself, "You're all beep, aren't you?" And then tap the brakes twice so they all nod. I'll have to ask Pablo. I'm going to keep that and ask Pablo if he does that on Monday. George Foreman died in the WhatsApp group, very sad, of course. Check the fuse, mate, was the reply.
Oh, dear me.
And news update, lads, news update. Man dies after falling into giant coffee vat. His wife told reporters he didn't suffer. It was instant.
Oh, good stuff. That's a relief.
Yeah.
And Justin Timberlake's announced he's joining the war effort in Ukraine. Early reports suggest he'll be stationed somewhere along the Crimea River.
Ka-ching.
Better than me singing, lads. And woman arrested for shitting on boss's desk after winning the lottery. True story, apparently, in 2017. One from me this week, lads. Not very often I'll stick one in, but here it is. This was on a Wetherspoon menu when I was down for the cup final. Children's breakfast.
Hey!
Hey! Is that Stu's kids?
Get them started.
Get them started early.
What do you mean you want milk?
And this was in a pub as well. I've been to this pub before, but somebody sent us it. I'd forgot all about it. Free beer, topless bartenders, and false advertising. The pub in Northallerton. Thank you for reminding us about that and sending us it. You know who you are. These toys as well that will get sent every now and then from Jimmy. Yeah, Susan, I'm on my way. Yeah, I'm in the car now. Happy hour play set. Lies in the pub. We all remember doing that, lads. Let's be honest. We all had mates who would get up and lie for you in exchange for a pint. In the petrol station after the rave, 20 Benton and Hedges, some king-size Rizzler, juicy fruit, and a bottle of water, please, mate. Yes. Mitch is just thinking back to Wembley. Guys all trying to get that Dick Felt defensive halfback. Do you know him, Mitch?
Yeah, he's quite a tight marker.
Couple of great school ones as well. This one, remember, Richard Littler pulled up at the traffic lights in some small Swiss town and wait, what?
It's Mr. Ben.
It's actually got the same things in the window.
Brilliant.
Brilliant, that. Absolutely brilliant. Great spot, by the way, Richard. I hope you didn't crash the car after seeing it. Gary as well. A great coffee table until you walk in and it's empty.
Yeah.
Jason in there, of course. I love this one. Very subtle. I'll leave it on the screen just so you can look at it, lads. Superman. Tesla's on fire. Gets into the phone box and dresses as Clark Kent. I laughed loud at that one, by the way. This is great as well. You've got to be of a certain age, though. I'm at the scene now, Sarge. It looks like someone's dropped a clanger.
Oh, yeah, me.
I love the way it's going.
Thank you, Colin. Star Wars. It's a Star Wars one. Only Star Wars fans will see it. Imagine that, man, having a cat with Darth Vader on the top of their head. Fantastic, that. A couple of Star Trek ones, haven't had these for a while. What do Star Trek and toilet paper have in common? They both fly around Uranus looking for Klingons.
Wow.
And I saw a flock of cows today. Heard of cows? Of course, I have. They go moo. I never wondered what happened to that kid from Home Alone, lads. Well, he's a different man. Here he is, Macaulay Culkin.
You know what? I'm sitting here watching this and I'm thinking, Joe's sitting there thinking, why didn't that come on 10 minutes later?
No, or at all.
Here's a budding detective in the making, lads. Curiosity may have killed the cat, but it's about to scare the crap out of the dog. Why did the parent take a photograph at that point? And great. We had a terrible photograph last week. Do you remember all those bras coming off of the Eiffel Tower? They said it was the worst photographer ever. Well, this one is pretty poor as well. My wife wanted to get a photo of her swimming. She's a great swimmer. We seem to be getting a few Bjork things now. This must be a thing, and I just miss it until people start sending us tweets. Here we go. Bjorkshire tea. Oh. I am a bit concerned about what's in the cup.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure I'll get more Bjork stuff now. I've got a feeling that's going to be a thing. Accident at work. You may be entitled to compensation.
Oh,
See, that was subtle. That was very subtle. Very subtle, lad.
Slipped that in, Steve.
You definitely did. Gary, thank you again. I started a band called Blanket. Really? Yeah, it's a cover band.
Oh, God.
So did the one. Quality this week, by the way. We're doing spot checks, says the police officer. Well, I've got 2 blackheads and a big boil on my arse. Not advised to say that, guys, if you get pulled over by the police.
Definitely
During a U2 concert in Glasgow, Scotland, Bono asked the audience for total silence. Then in the silence, he started to slowly clap his hands. Once every few seconds, holding the audience in total silence. He said into the microphone, "Every time I clap my hands, a child in Africa dies." From the front of the crowd, a broad Scottish accent pierced the quiet. "Well, fucking stop doing it then, you evil bastard." Very good. I got this one as well ages ago, and I forgot to use it, lads. This is hilarious. Well, it might be just my sense of humor, but I just found it hilarious. The little smile you give to old people when you walk past them to prove you're not a chav or anything. I think we've all done that, even you, George, probably. It's like trying to reassure people in the street, when you walk past, especially with my haircut. Anyway, I've definitely done that. But
when I was sitting on the bench, I used to get lots of people doing it to me.
Exactly.
I can round bloody Fine Fair or whatever it used to be on your estate.
Yeah.
I've been baking again, lads. I've made some bad cakes, but never wrecked them like this before.
Oh, yeah.
And here's some, women, take note of this. Always be careful what you wear underneath your skirt. SpongeBob SquarePants. It's a classic, that. It's a VPL, is it, or something? I don't know. Anyway, did you know as well, lads, that if you rest one of your testicles on top of an empty beer bottle and hold a naked flame at the base, eventually it gets sucked inside? If you did know this and you know how to get it out, please message me urgently. Mitch looks like he's tried that. And when you're horny, lads, always wear protection, like my friend here. And the top 2 this week, here we go. Only Weetabix is allowed to be in landscape. Very true. I agree with that, by the way. This is the winner this week. Since I've started packaging my trash like this, my neighbors respect me. They say good morning with a smile and keep the music volume really low. Thank you, Jimmy. Jimmy wins Tweet of the Week by a country mile. Him and Gary were on form this week, but Jimmy, you sent us about 15 this week, and I've put them all out there. If you've got a Tweet of the Week, NUFC Matters 8092 at gmail.com, or go to our social media, send them on there, and we'll probably upset a few people, probably lose a few viewers, but we'll make the rest of you laugh. Made Gary laugh anyway. He says, that was funny. The best ones tonight. Thank you, mate. I'm glad we'll make some of you laugh. Davey Eddie, we'll come to your stuff here. He says, John Barnes saying Newcastle did well winning the Carabao Cup, but if they think this is a springboard to other things, they've got to have a reality check. Well, as George said, this is just the start. Now, this ties in with a question as well that we got a little bit earlier from Chantel. Hi, lads. Is there any chance you know if Isaac's got a contract put to him? Because there's a lot of talk, mainly from other fans, Arsenal and Liverpool fans. I don't know if they're true or not. I love the show. Thank you very much. But it also ties in with another one that we had on Wednesday, which I didn't get to, which is people saying, what do you think about the media and the way that they're going on about Newcastle winning the cup? Now, I didn't ask this last week because last week I wanted it to be a celebration of winning the cup. I didn't want to bring anybody down, so from my perspective, I just wanted it to be positive. I don't mind touching on it this week. Cup's gone now. We're focusing. Yep, there's the parade tomorrow, but we need to be focused on Brentford and beating Brentford on Wednesday night. But the media, we've given them a little time to reflect on Newcastle's cup final. There's been some positive stuff, certainly some positive stuff, Mitch. But as usual, there has been stuff like we've seen there from John Barnes, saying that that's not going to be a springboard. What do you make of the media coverage as a whole?
Symptomatic of a load of particularly Liverpool, but also Arsenal fans who are handing round bottles of Coke and having big swigs from the bottle of Coke, trying to cope with the fact that the sleeping giant that they've been so terrified of, and try to keep a lid on by putting obscure rules in our way after the takeover has finally woken up, and they're shitting their pants. They're quite visibly shitting their pants. And I've got one, you know, me and Stu often talk about a UAE football group that we're on WhatsApp. One of the Liverpool fans on there is having a nibble every day. And the day he posted something, and it was something shite, and he was like, "Oh, so Newcastle fans are still celebrating their cup win." So I said, "Yeah, just wait till I send you the link to the YouTube live stream of the bus parade tomorrow, mate." And he had a massive nibble on that. They're all shitting their pants, and they're getting as many of their media pals to get involved as possible. I've counted six of our first team squad in the last 10 days who would have said, "Oh, well, Liverpool should be in for them and Arsenal should be in for them." And somebody in the media putting a montage together with that head photoshopped onto various club shirts. And yet, when people are doing it with Trent Alexander-Arnold, the same Liverpool fans again are absolutely shitting their pants and losing their minds. I think we have a definite rallying of certain individuals in the media who are quite happy to help their pals at certain clubs, and that is as ever was. What I find it very interesting is one of the people who's gone totally the other direction and said, "If you think you're getting your hands on Isaac, you've got another thing coming," is Ornstein.
Mhm.
And that for me is one of the more significant articles this week, because that's somebody who's quite happy to lay into Newcastle.
Yeah.
Quite happy to. But he's turning around and putting a little bit of common sense on the whole matter, saying, look, he's got 3 years left on his contract. They broke the bank in terms of money, and they broke the bank in terms of wage structure to get him signed. He's got 3 years on a contract that's still valid, and he's told the media on repeated occasions when he's been back home in Sweden, "I am very happy at Newcastle and I'm not going anywhere." So if you're thinking you're going to get him for 100 million plus players you don't want, do you think Newcastle want those players? Do they fuck? And we don't. I tell you what, I would be amusing if the little rumour that's going around that Salah's off to Saudi, but if we qualify for the Champions League, he wants to be loaned back to us is true.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I do as well. I want to just chuck it out there just so more people hear it, because it's certainly doing the rounds over here.
That's why I asked the lad from Egypt on Wednesday night, what would Egypt be like when Mo Salah signs for Newcastle if we're in the Champions League?
Absolutely, mate. And they would go mad. Regionally, for the MENA region, that would be a groundbreaking move. Don't for a moment think it's going to happen.
No.
But at the same time, it's wonderful to have a little bit of ammunition to throw back to this nonsense that we are being subjected to. We've had both our fullbacks, 2 of our 3 midfielders, our main striker,
and brother striker,
and one of our centre sold off. Actually, no, you're right. Two strikers sold off to other clubs by the media already in the last 10 days.
Yeah. I don't know why we don't have a little go back. Why don't the Geordies, Mitch, have a go back? You know, I mean, I get it. I guess it's down to journalistic integrity, but you know, wouldn't do any harm for Craig Hope to write a story about Saka coming to Newcastle.
They don't have regional independence. How many of them have regional independence anymore?
Yeah, true.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you made the point the other week. You or Steve made the point the other week about it depends what they're getting told to write by the Red.
Yes. You know, Ian Hardy's stupid bloody question in that press conference. I'm sorry. He was told to ask that.
Yeah.
I can't believe that was his actual question. I don't believe it at all. I think he's better than that. And so I don't think we have the regional independence anymore. We're ultimately controlled from Manchester with Reach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
You know,
that's disappointing.
Read into that what you will. There's nobody like Gibbo out there now. Or even, God bless him, Alan Oliver.
Yeah, he's still
Who,
around.
at least if he was backed into a corner, would fight.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not allowed to. They've got to do it in more subtle and mealy-mouthed ways, or everybody's doing it through their YouTube channels now and things like that. It's not the same. I was disappointed, still remain disappointed with Keith at Sky Sports when he was confronted with it very directly and tried to hide it and say it wasn't happening and tried to piss on my backs and tell me it was raining.
Yeah, I missed
when there was, somebody went to Keith directly on Twitter and said, "Will you stop your colleagues at Sky Sports, people like Merson, saying that Isaac's off to Arsenal and trying to sell our players?" And he pretty much denied it was happening. And then was presented with the evidence and then just ignored it because it was an inconvenient truth, which I get. We don't pay his wages and we're not going to pay his mortgage if he gets sacked tomorrow. I get that. But there has to be a line where somebody says, no, enough's enough.
Well, Pete Graves works for Newcastle United as well as Sky Sports, doesn't he? I mean, he does a column, and I'm not sure whether he's contractually obligated to the football club, but he certainly does a column in the match program, and he's the man tomorrow at the.
These are the relationships I have a problem with across the board at the moment.
Yeah,
across the board, people are desperate to keep the relationship they have with Newcastle United, be that a journalist, be that a fan, be that a supporters trust, be that a fan group, or be that somebody who represents a body of fans. They're more interested in keeping their cosy relationship with a football club, and it's not just at our club, it's at many, many other clubs. If you look at the absolutely pathetic statement put out by Manchester United supporters just recently.
Yes, for that.
About pricing and about their fab and how they kind of talk about it because it's confidential and we've got to keep a relationship with the club. Well, I'm sorry, you didn't become a supporters trust to look up to by me and by Steve and by Colin Whittle and the people that founded the trust by being mealy-mouthed little self-serving arseholes. You used to have a pair of balls. But everybody's now desperate to keep their relationships with the club because it keeps certain things in their favour. So you're never going to get the full truth and you're never going to get full openness. In some ways, I'm really glad I didn't get involved with the FAB in the end because it would have stopped me doing this with a clear mind and clear heart.
Yeah.
To have an ability to say what the fuck I want and be honest about it. But that's the problem we have, is we have journalists in that same state whereby they probably are pretty much told, you don't write what we like, we're going to just freeze you out. And now, in an era of clicks and clickbait, and they all know, bloody Gorilla Gloves was the master of this, of knowing when to chuck some bait at the Newcastle fans, because in my masses will bite. We're like bloody piranhas. But by God, it got him some traction on social media. It kept him relevant when he was banished to Qatar. And it kept him enough in the news that it made be and reward him repeatedly because, gosh, you're still getting all this traction. And look at all the clicks and things directed to our website from you. And that's genuinely how it still works now, and it's not the same. And it's super frustrating. I am really tired of seeing the same thing happen repeatedly, particularly through social media, of basically certain journalists selling half of our squad. And then the next thing is obviously we've had another little resurgence of the human rights aspect, and a few little journalists pop up with that. So we're not even allowed to enjoy winning a bloody cup. Oh, fuck you.
I've enjoyed winning
I'm
the
gonna
cup.
enjoy every moment of it.
I've literally lived in a Steve Wraith bubble, and it's been great. I haven't got drawn into any of the crap, and I've just absolutely loved it. It's been a more matured response from me, I think, rather than I had all that when I was at the match. I count myself extremely grateful to have been there. I never count my blessings about getting a cup final ticket, and I've just literally enjoyed it. And I'm not going to the parade tomorrow.
Mate,
I'm not protesting about it. I think it's a great idea.
I've had 2 weeks of absolute pure joy.
Yeah, me too.
And will continue to do so until the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I will teabag any arsehole who gets in my way quite delightfully to remind them that we've won the Carabao Cup. And if you want to tell me it's a Mickey Mouse Cup when you were that bothered about it 10 days ago, you can go stuff it up your arse, mate.
Yeah, I still don't know what this teabagging is. I don't want an explanation though, Mitch. So I think I'll move on to your dad before I get an explanation. Whilst you drink your tea. George, what about this media coverage?
Well, it's pathetic, but it's to be expected. I mean, I said many times before, if you've got good players, other people are going to covet them. The only trouble is at the moment is that they're doing it all the time to us because that's the only direction they can go. And the other side is that the days gone by when we had, even as far back as poor Ken McKenzie, for example, always had one or two reporters that would do something on our side. Now it's not like that at all. They do what they're told, like any other person working for a conglomerate, which all of them are now, and it's quite sad. What I was pleased about this week was, though, as Neil said, the sports washing thing raised its head again, but very quickly disappeared because nobody took a hit of taking it up. It just died to death. And other things that they brought up weren't relevant. And I've got to be perfectly honest. When it gets a bit thick, I just pick the rattle up and turn the rattle and remind myself what all that was about. So I've got an outlet. I've got an outlet. I painted that at the beginning of the season because I just had a feeling it was going to come right this year. By goodness, I'm glad it has. The other things about the press is that it's historical. I'm afraid, guys. It was exactly the same when we won the 3 cups in the 50s. When we beat Blackpool for the first one, we were slaughtered in the press because we denied 38-year-old Stanley Matthews from getting his cup medal. The only thing he hadn't won in football, and those sods from the Tyne side took it off him and beat Blackpool at Wembley. We beat Arsenal and got slated by the London media because Arsenal were ready to win the double and the cup against us at Wembley. And then in the 55, Manchester City were a shoe-in for the cup, and all the pundits had their money on Manchester City. And gosh, we didn't upset them again. So, it's not new. It just those awkward little Geordies in the northeast causing all this bother, and I'm delighted to cause bother. This greedy little duck's waiting for more. You know that. Like you, Steve, it's been like a bubble, and I'm still there. Even after 70 odd years of support, this couple of weeks has given me so much joy to see you lads enjoy it. I mean, Neil and the lads know we've been to every final that they've lost, every semi-final sometimes that we've lost at Wembley and everywhere else, and never seen them win. So for me to sit here and watch them win and know that Neil and the lads were all there enjoying it is great for me as well. So it's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, certainly has. Joe, I haven't heard your feelings about the cup because obviously you were missing in action last week. How did you feel seeing Newcastle?
I can tell he's pissed off. He's not happy yet. See that.
How did you feel about Newcastle lifting the cup? Obviously, your dad and you obviously go to the games together. Fantastic, wasn't it? Great weekend.
Yeah, it was a stunning weekend, Stephen. And I you know, this thing about the press and all that, my thumbs are hurting because I'm still flicking through Twitter watching Isaac's goal and Dan
Yeah.
Burn, and you know, what an emotional day. And I thought I'd go a bit more wilder than I did, to share it with me dad, and looking at me dad, you know, just that moment of, you know, and there's the tears rolling down our faces and you're trying not to show it, but you couldn't help it. It was phenomenal. And I think not only for me, my generation, the generations that come after me, but certainly for me dad and his generation, just to see it. And, you know, it was almost like, yeah, we've done it. We've done it now. The monkey's off the back, you know, we've seen it. And weren't we fantastic? And didn't we play amazingly well? And didn't we score 2 wonderful goals? So I think from my perspective, it was kind of everything that you wanted it to be. You know, the weekend was phenomenal. The beer was reasonable, I suppose. You know, the crack was great, and the match was fantastic. So, and yet here we are, kind of with a southern-based press, I guess, or you know, a British press, kind of trying to belittle it, whether it's through sports washing, whether it's through you know, it doesn't matter anyway because it's Mickey Mouse, or you'll never do it again because Isaac's going to Arsenal, and you know, Tonali's going to Barcelona, and so what? Because for every, do you know what's been brilliant this last week or two? For every kind of news story about where's Alex Isak going, and you know, Lewis Hall's now signing for Man City and all the rest of it, there's like 20,000 videos of Dan Burn burying it. And I've just enjoyed watching them, you know. And I was even watching some today, you know, flicking again, just going, what a goal that was, what a header that was. So that's where I've been all week. You know, I what a time to be alive, you know. And you mentioned it earlier, Dan Burn's England appearance. They were at the darts last night and he's doing his dance, and, you know, Trips is there, and Harvey Barnes. And what a time to be alive, you know. And I just think, write what you want, say what you want. I'm over the moon that our players are being linked with other clubs, because you know what? It must mean we've got some bloody good players. You know, if Barcelona want our players, fantastic, because they didn't want our players 15 years ago. They didn't want our players 5 years ago. But now all of a sudden we've got Brazilian internationals, and we've got Italian internationals, and we've got the best striker on earth. Sven Botman, hopefully Tino Livramento. Yeah, link who you want, where you want. I don't care, because do you know what? They all play for Newcastle United, and isn't that lovely?
Great stuff, Joe. Thoughts, Steve, just on the media stuff? Obviously, we started with John Barnes there. We could have picked anyone really over the course of the last few days, and people cheapening the trophy now. But you know, as Mitch rightly pointed out, it's the same people who were championing that trophy before Liverpool lost it. And I seem to remember Liverpool celebrating it last year when they won it.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know where Barnes was coming from, in so much as this is not the springboard. How does he know? He doesn't know what a springboard is. He doesn't know how. He's not here on the ground in Newcastle. He doesn't understand from a fan's perspective where we're heading and what it's meant to the club. I don't think he grasps exactly what it means to the football club. We've talked about the football club needing to move on. We've talked about the football club needing to show a lot more of a professional way of going about things. I remember over the last 3 months mentioned many a time about the club not having the winning mentality. Well, now it does have a winning mentality. Now it's achieved that. Now it's we talk about the monkey off your back. Yeah, it is. It's the monkey off our back. That's what we've been waiting for. That's what we've had hanging over us for so long. And I think that it's like that word as original, isn't it? It's like, you know, it's that soothing moment that we're just grasping now, because we're just like unwinding, and all of that pent up frustration we've had of not managing to get over the line. Now we've done it. The appetite is going to just grow and grow for doing it again and again and again. I want that appetite within the football club. I want that appetite among the playing staff. The appetite pushed by the manager, and I want the manager, when he pushes and pushes, to be supported by the directors to get us right the way to where potentially this football club's going. If this had happened under Ashley, I doubt that we could yes, we'd have been so overawed and excited, but I doubt we'd have had that anticipation that Ashley would then push the boat out. And maybe John Barnes is caught up in that sort of environment of a mindset that our owners are like Mike Ashley or like other owners of other football clubs that he's been involved in. But we're not. We've got owners who are on the same wavelength as our fan base. We've got owners with just as much excitement, just as much demand, and just as much willpower to get us to the next level and a higher level and a higher level, because they're winners and they'll only appreciate winners. And I mean, they've done in 3 years what no other owners have been able to do. They're moving this football club forward. There's, an announcement we made, not too distant future about where we are with a new stadium. We've got 10 games now to compete for to get into the Champions League. And what are the national press doing? They're doing everything they can to try and suppress us. As Mitch says, the writing of and bringing up again of the topic of sports washing is there to annoy, it's there to irritate, it's there to keep it front and centre among the owners of other football clubs, so that it reminds them of this club is we need to pin it back. We need to do all we can, and they keep pushing that and pushing that. They're pushing other supporters from other clubs in the same vein, because that's all they've got. Because now we've won something. They've always said we'd never win something. Now we've won something. They're scared stiff, absolutely scared stiff. Get into the Champions League, finish these last 10 games off, and then we'll see where we are. And then we'll see the growth, and then we'll see the real mad panic. And then we'll see Alexander Isak sign an extension of his contract. We'll see Bruno sign an extension of his contract. We'll see Anthony Gordon come out and say that he's staying where he is, because why would he want to be at a losing club? Because let's face it, within 3 years, we're going to be on the pinnacle. And some of those big clubs are going to be nowhere.
I love the little laugh at the end. Just want to say a big thank you to everyone tuned in. 1,160 of you watching live tonight, 600 of you on Twitter. Jump over onto NUFC Matters on YouTube, search for the channel and just subscribe. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. And big thank you as well to everybody who has tuned in. As always, we always share the figures with you. Channel updates, slow progression, but another 45 new subscribers last month, 102.9 total views, 1.9 million minutes watched. As I say, we never take that for granted. Thanks very much to everybody who supports the channel, and thanks to you, those who make donations and who are members. I will do a members chat soon. I've just been very busy away from the show, and I will come up with a members show probably in the next week or so. I think I'm fairly quiet next week, so I should be able to do it. Okay, let's look ahead to next week's game, and Newcastle United are back in Premier League action. It is 7:45 start, and it is the Premier League, of course. Thomas Frank brings Brentford to Gallagher for a non-televised game. This will be the 8th time that the two clubs have met in top-flight competition. Newcastle winning 5 and drawn 1 of the first 6 before Brentford notched up their maiden success in West London last December. Results from Premier League games played while Newcastle were at Wembley left Eddie Howe's side 6th in the table on 47 points, with Brentford 6 points and 5 places behind that haven't played a game more. Team news: Anthony Gordon will serve the 3rd and final game of his suspension. As for his injury, well, it looks like he'll be back for the next game after that. Leicester, it was just a heavily bruised hip injury. Sven Botman and Lewis Hall remain sidelined after having surgery. Injury victim Jamal Lascelles is nearing a return to the squad a year after his most recent appearance. Great to see him at Wembley, though, helping the lads pick up the trophy. As for Brentford, Fabio Cavallo remains out. Michael Coyote, Matthias Jensen, Igor Thiago, Josh De Silva and Aaron Hickey could all return. And since a 2-1 defeat at Chelsea last December, Brentford, dangerous opposition, are unbeaten on the road in the Premier League. A 0-0 draw at Brighton, followed by wins at Southampton 5-0, Crystal Palace 2-1, West Ham 1-0, Leicester City 4-0 and Bournemouth 2-1. Shows that they are quite dangerous on the road. Brentford have lost both games that Peter Banks has taken charge of with them. And Peter Banks is the referee. It is his third tune portion of the season for us. The bad news is that he was in charge of Newcastle's 3-1 loss at Fulham and the 1-0 home defeat by Brighton. So somebody's going to win or someone's going to draw at the weekend. VAR on Wednesday, sorry. VAR is Craig Pawson. So looking ahead to this game, looking forward to it. What's your feelings, Mitch, for this one? Because I just hope it's not after the Lord Mayor's show or the Lord Mayor's parade. I hope they're focused. And I've heard a few people saying, will they be parading the cup at the match? I hope not. I hope they don't do that. This has got to be back to business. I would like to think that Eddie's using tomorrow as that opportunity to show the trophy, and then we'll move on. There's plenty of time to show the trophy, you know, in other ways and shapes and forms. Stick it in the trophy cabinet, let people book ground tours and go and see it. I don't think bringing the trophy out before the match, I think it could be a distraction. That's my opinion, of course.
Yeah, but the vibe from the players that were here in Dubai, and quite a few of the Dubai mags spent a little bit of time with them, is that they're going back to mean business. And there's a mindset there. This is something we can use as fuel. Do you want to know why Big Meeks missed his podcast on the Sunday night? It wasn't because he didn't have a signal here in Dubai. It's because he was with the Dubai mags. This picture's Meeks, by the way, so just in case. But equally, yeah, they're going back with certainly, I think, with a very different mindset and with a can-do attitude that, you know, that there's now, okay, we've done that, what's the next thing? And I agree with you. I think sod parading the cup before the game on Wednesday. Let's get all of that out of the way of the weekend, and then we've got something to focus on Wednesday. Brentford are, and always will be, as long as Thomas Frank is there, an exceptionally well-organised team. That's why they do well. That's why, away from home in particular in the Premier League, they always do exceptionally well. They're a difficult team to break down. They know their role. They know their duties and what they can do and what they can't do. They know their limitations. And they make the best of what they've got. And we owe them one. By our captain's admission, we didn't play well down at Brentford. And so we owe them one as well. But it will be a very difficult game. All Premier League games are, but they are exceptionally well organised and do very well away from home because of that. And that's how Thomas Frank sets his teams up.
Okay, what's your feelings on this game, mate? What's your feelings? What's your prediction? Have you got the dice?
I can get the dice if you give us 2 seconds.
Go and get the dice. Go and get the dice when you can. Aye, but give us your thoughts on the game, George, while Neil goes and gets the dice.
Well, Neil's said most of what I would say. Brentford's always going to be a difficult game because of their manager and the way they set things up, and they're always a team, an attractive team to watch as well. So, looking forward to the game. As regards the cup, well, if they want to parade it, why not? After we've beaten Brentford, bring it out of the dressing room and walk around with it at the end when we're celebrating a victory over Brentford. I agree with you. Before could backfire on me. However, bearing in mind how Eddie Howe gets them all wound up anyway, it may not be as bad a thing as we think. But if it's going to come out, I would bring it out after the end when we've beaten Brentford and let them walk around the pitch when they're saying good night after the game. But I'm looking forward to the game, and I'm looking forward to see if we can repeat some of the energy and style that we had at Wembley, because our midfield plays the way they did at Wembley. Brentford aren't going to bother us this time, and in fact, very few teams would. So I'm looking forward to Wednesday. Really looking forward. In fact, because I haven't seen a match for so long, I'm starting to get withdrawal symptoms.
Okay, what's your prediction, George?
I think it'll be a 2-0 win to Newcastle United.
Okay, 2-0. Mitch, what's the dice say?
Okay.
I love it when it does that.
It's great.
This is very accurate.
It just shows it's live, Steve.
It does.
2-0.
Oh, 2-0. Are you going for a win?
I'll go for a penman. I'll go for a 3-1.
3-1. That's what I'm going to go for a 3-1 as well. I am confident we'll win this game. Joseph.
Yeah, back to business. I think back to business is right, isn't it? And I agree with you, George. I haven't seen any football since Wembley, so I don't know what a ball looks like. They're a good side. They're a good attacking side. Got some good players. Obviously, Mbeumo, who's linked with us constantly. I like Johan Wisser as well. He's playing really well. And yeah, they've got a decent manager who I do think will probably move on. Probably to Tottenham. He'll have 18 months and then we'll never see him again. But I think he will move on. 6 points behind us in the league. But if we're not on the up and if we're not on the crest of a wave, they won't want to come to St James's Park on Wednesday night. Carabao Cup or no Carabao Cup. And I do agree. I think that's what tomorrow's for. I think let's do the Carabao Cup tomorrow, and then let's get back on the training park on Sunday, and get ready to get stuck into Brentford. You know, the Champions League places are there, aren't they? You know, we're favoured to kind of qualify for the Champions League, and we've said it before. If you've got aspirations to do things like qualify for the Champions League, you beat teams like Brentford at home. So, like you say, get Joel into that. Isaac is just unplayable at the moment, whether you're Liverpool, Brentford, Sweden's opponents. The lad's on fire. So hopefully we will be a bit too strong for them. And without getting overly carried away, I think 2-0 is probably about right. If they're going to score, it'll be 3-1. So, yeah, either way, 3 points Newcastle. I can't see any other result.
Did you do any betting odds for anybody?
I did, yeah. I was waiting for the theme tune.
Well, because you came in at 6. Because you came in at 6 and we're mid in conversation. I just thought I'm not sure whether he'll have done them or not. No, especially the game being midweek. So here we go. Over to you, Joseph.
So I've just come on to tell you I haven't got any prices for Wednesday. There's only a few. It's a little bit early. What we don't have is any odds in relation to any of the players. So in terms of the goal scorer markets and things like that, very obviously Alex Isaac will be top of that. And get your money on Dan Burn because he's like Roy of the Rovers at the minute, isn't he? Don't be surprised if he doesn't bang a hat trick in. There are a few prices though. We are favourites to win the game. We're 8-11 to win the game. The draw and the away win are both 3-1. So the bookies very much fancying Newcastle to win the match. There's various interesting prices in relation to the correct score in the game, but we've mentioned 2-0 there. That's 9-1, and 3-1 is 10-1. And so we're 7-1 to win 2-1, and Brentford are 12-1 to win 2-1. So you can see that the bookies really, really fancy Newcastle. If, in spite of all the attacking players on view, we get a 0-0 draw, that's as big as 18-1. So goals are fancied, as you can imagine. As I say, I haven't got any prices in relation to the players because it is a bit too early yet. But I was looking, something we haven't thought about for a long, long time. And why not? Just for a bit of Northeast consolidarity this weekend. If you fancy a very doable Northeast treble, Saturday and Wednesday night, it's just under 4-1. So that's Middlesbrough to beat Oxford, the mighty Oxford, and Sunderland to get a result at home to Millwall. So just under 4-1 for that. I fancy 4 away wins in the FA Cup tomorrow or over the weekend. That's 40-1. And in terms of the FA Cup, England's second most prestigious trophy, we've got Man City are favourites, Aston Villa are 4-1, Brighton 5-1. And I mentioned Nottingham Forest to win the FA Cup quite a few weeks ago. They remain 12-1. So there's a bit of value there if you think Forest will win the FA Cup. Whatever you're doing, look after your money. There's some interesting prices about this weekend. But yeah, 4-way wins in the FA Cup, 40-1. Try that.
Bet sensibly, if you've got to, and good luck as well. Steve, your feelings on the Brentford game?
Yeah, I watched Brentford v Bournemouth on playback, and I didn't think they played that well. I thought Brentford were the better of the two teams. But what was very noticeable about Brentford was that how quick they broke, and they may not create lots of chances, but when they do create them, they score goals. They have a tendency to put the ball in the back of the net. They're a dangerous team, but they're nothing that we should be too worried about. We've just spent an hour and a half talking about how annoyed we are at other clubs and people in the press trying to sell our players. Brentford are in a similar situation with Mbeumo and Wissa and Damsgaard and various other people. I saw an article a couple of days ago in one of the London papers saying that Mbeumo was perfect for Arsenal. And so it goes on, and it must be frustrating, not just for us as fans, but for supporters of the likes of Brentford. But I suppose when you're a relatively small club, and I don't mean that disparagingly, but not considered one of the Premier Elite, that we're gonna get this all the time. The top clubs, that there's an arrogance that thinks they can just pick off, throw the money, and that's it. Now I would love to think that Brentford would knock back any offers that they had for some of their players, from the likes of Arsenal and Manchester United, another club linked with them, and Liverpool. I think it's poor press. I think it's disrespectful. And having said that, if there's an article next week in the paper that says that we're going to buy him, I'll be quite happy. So that's the cynical side of football, isn't it? But no, I'm looking forward to the game. I'm like George. I'm itching to get back in. I wouldn't be surprised if we had the club there on a plinth and we walked past it. I don't know whether the protocol for the League Cup is that we get clapped on by the opposition. I wouldn't be surprised if we did, that sort of thing. Whether I would want that to happen, I'm not really that bothered. All I want to do is concentrate on the next 10 games. Tomorrow is the big party, if you like, the way that we can celebrate as a city, and I think that's massively important, because I think it sends shudders and makes people realise that it's not just the 52,000 that get into a game, but it's the entire region, it's the entire city, it's the people north and south of the river who are black and white through and through, who come together, and we'll end up with 150, 200. They were talking at one point of possibly even 500,000 people in the city on Saturday at any one particular time.
That's why my contacts at Northumbria Police were dead against the big bus, open top bus route.
Yeah, they were worried.
Like I said, is the first guy that said, "Don't expect a bus parade," was a smuggy, and I thought, "Yeah, you're just taking the piss. Yeah, you're better." But then when somebody else said they expected any open top bus parade to be quote unquote fucking chaos, okay, maybe you're not quite enthused with the whole idea. What they've come up with at the end is a fantastic compromise. I think it's just a little trip up the moor from the ground. But you're right. I mean, you want to talk about numbers? I keep meaning to do this. I've just not had the chance this week. One of the global WhatsApp groups I'm on, I can show you the numbers that just weren't here in Dubai.
Yeah.
That were in Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, in Perth, Australia, in Melbourne, Australia, in Tokyo. the guys getting up for their breakfast in San Diego, New York, and Chicago. You're talking not small numbers. If we had 500 plus here in Dubai, we sold UBK out. You've been to UBK, Steve.
Yeah.
We had top and bottom level. Now, bearing in mind, there was at least 40 of we who would normally be there were at Wembley. 500 plus in Bangkok at silly o'clock in the morning. And if you look at how many of those were expat Geordies versus Thais wearing black and white shirts, the proportion would surprise you.
Yeah.
What this cup win's done for me is solidify how big we are and how much bigger we can be around the world once we get on this roll. And I hope they can maximise what they do. We're talking about UBK showing the live stream on YouTube on Saturday, even though it's sort of like 10 o'clock at night. That'll be a load of the Dubai mags out and up for watching together. And what it's done, that's exactly what it's done, mate. It's brought everybody together around the world. And it's a nice reminder about the trajectory we could be on now. And just imagine when it's the FA Cup and when it's the league and when it's something else. Because I think it's a case now of when. There isn't an if.
Yeah, and not only that, Mitch, but I'm looking at family members who are coming down from Ashington.
Yes,
it's
always been the old lady that stops you at the bus stop and says, "How did we do?"
That's right.
How did we do?
Yep. The 10-year-olds in my daughter's class who are saying to her this week, "Are you going into town on Saturday, miss? Are you going into town? Well, we'll see you there. Your mum's taking us. We're all going. There's 7 of us going. We're meeting me granny there and all this type of thing, you know." And granted, those kids, their grandmas are younger than me, for God's sake. But it's what it means to the region, you know, what it means to the city. It's an outpouring of 70 years, you know, and there's George, and George and I have already been in touch about what we're doing tomorrow and meeting up and where we can get George a chance to see the parade, see the cup from a more comfortable position than having to stand on the street corner, that type of thing. And there'll be many others like that, you know. It's a huge thing. We've waited 70 years for such a parade. I was lucky enough to see losers parades, but never a winners parade, you know. And I know we've seen it on TV about a winners parade after the 55 Cup final when they got off the train, and I mean that looked great. The little snippets that we get, and you know, I remember the parade in '69 for the Fairs Cup, and then the one '74 when we lost, and obviously various other parades that we've had. The promotion one, and you know that was tremendous when it came all the way down from Gosford. But this is going to be something special because you're going to see everybody on the moor. You know, probably, you know, they're saying 100,000. I think it'll be far more than that because I think people will be on the other side of the fence, and I think it's a party tomorrow like I don't think any city will have experienced. We've seen American football teams party in certain ways, but I think what we're going to see is a huge family gathering and a huge family party tomorrow. The black and white family, the Geordie family, the Newcastle United family, and I'm really looking forward to that. But back to the main thing, Steve, the game on Wednesday, massively important. The start of a 10-game unbeaten run, the start of a run that gets us into the Champions League, the start of a run that finalises in May with a top 5 finish, a Champions League position, and sets us up very nicely for the following season as winners, as a cup winner. That is going to be written on the wall at Newcastle United at St James's Park and on everybody's history books forevermore that Newcastle United are now winners. And that for me,
if you want any measure about how our players feel about this, you see what Joe Linton's done this weekend after he's finished for his Brazil duty, he's had a party in his hometown to show his medal off.
Fantastic. That is
lovely.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is great.
And I think that's what it's all about. Steve, did I get your prediction, by the way?
You didn't? No, I was going to go for 2-0, but my enthusiasm has got the better of us, and I'm going for a penman now.
All right, okay. Yeah, people asking why I'm not going. I'm in London, so that, first of all, it's a bit difficult to go. But I've got to be honest, I'm not really keen on going to that kind of thing. I was at the cup final. As I said earlier on, I feel privileged to have been there. I saw them lift the trophy. And like Steve's just mentioned, this is a chance. This is a massive chance for families, for people who haven't had a chance to go to the match, won't get a chance to go to the match for quite a while until we get a new stadium.
And that's why I had no problem with them unveiling it at the women's game. There was an opportunity for people who wouldn't have a chance to see that cup, be that at Wembley or tomorrow, see the cup.
If I was in Newcastle, I would watch it on the TV as well. I genuinely wouldn't. I wouldn't want to be standing in the middle of the town moor with 100,000 plus people. That's just not for me. You know what I mean? And that's might be an old thing. It might, if I was 15 or 16, I'd be there like a shot, 100%, trying to sneak booze in and having a drink, watching everything that's going to come about. Go on, Steve.
It's raining, Steve. Mind, I'm in the pub watching on the telly.
This is it. The weather. I hope the forecast stays good for everybody. Lots of people, before we finish, trying to predict what on earth is the situation with the surprise guest. I would say, as a betting man, Joe, I would say it's going to be Sam Fender. His tour hasn't quite started.
Yes.
Jimmy Nail does live in Newcastle now, so I would say Jimmy Nail could be a possibility. It could be some kind of super group. You might have a bit of Knopfler, a bit of Fender, a bit of Jimmy Nail, a bit of Brian Johnson. Who knows? A bit of Sting. It's whoever's available and whoever seller have said, look, get yourselves over. They're all potentials. They're all people who've being a bit of a part of it. Some John, just as Alan suggested, it could be happy as in Pep.
I did tell them that I've got my budgie smuggler still, but I've never replied to the email yet.
Go around and who do you think it's going to be, Mitch?
What, the seller surprise?
Yeah.
God knows.
I think it's going to be
Legacy. I've been told to expect something, different. If Sam Fender's not involved, I'll be surprised.
Okay, George.
Sam Fender, I was going to say as well. It's the moment. It's the moment.
Yeah, I can put your mind at rest, Geordie Toonville. It's not me singing. Don't worry about that. It's definitely now, Dean. That would be great if it was Buzzcocks getting up singing "Smash Your Pasty." That would be fantastic. That's not sponsored by Greg's.
No, I would go for the super group element. I think if you're going to have a surprise, then you can't limit it to one person. And I think you're looking at Brian, you're looking at possibly Sam if you can make it, and Mark Knopfler. They would be the three for me. But a nice blast to the audience of Thunderstruck, followed by Local Hero, and Sam can do hypersonic missiles towards the end.
Steve thinks it's going to be £50 notes from Seller. So maybe he's thinking it's going to be like an old-fashioned scramble at a wedding. Mozza thinks they're going to do some kind of they're going to build a new stadium before we get there. King Kev is the surprise. I still think until they sort things out with Pedro, I don't think that'll happen. But, I'd love to be proved wrong. Joe, what do you reckon?
Do you know what I want? I want it to be Bukayo Saka signing his pre-contract agreement. That's what I want it to be.
On that note, we'll finish. Thanks to everybody for watching. Great numbers tonight. Hope you've enjoyed the show. As always, back tomorrow morning with Three's a Crowd, the Northeast Football Podcast, and then the professionals will be back live at 5, because Stu likes to be able to say it, live at 5 on Sunday night. It was 5, yeah, it was, Mitch. Yeah, I'm just looking at Mitch's face there. Yeah.
I'm just adding the time difference on.
Oh God, don't forget the clocks change this weekend. Yeah, we're going into British summertime. Great stuff, lads. Thanks very much. Have a good weekend. What are we doing? If you go into the parade, I hope you see the cup, and I hope you have a great time. And as I say, I will see you 9:30 in the morning with Three's a Crowd. Take care, lads. See you later.
All the best.
Cheers,
See you, lads.